Hadn't heard this preached since I've been here, so I thought I'd preach on the stumbling block. Just kidding. Just kidding. Heard y'all had to hug the cactus all morning this morning, so between Matt and the preacher, so that's just a little joke. Uh, I started a couple of days before I preached last up here. I had something happening to me, and I thought I'm just gonna quit. I broke a couple teeth out, and it's a little bit embarrassing, to be a public speaker and to have teeth missing. So, if you guys, if we got any dentists in our church, or if you know a dentist that might want to work for little or nothing, let me know. Anyhow, do we have any hunters out in the crowd? Anybody that likes to hunt? Do we have anybody who's ever been in the woods before? Anybody that's ever been in the woods before? Anybody? Well, let me just get on with the story. This is actually a story that God used to affect me, and it affected me big time. Has God ever spoken to you? Has anybody ever heard God's audible voice? Raise your hand. I've actually heard God audibly twice. Once he simply said, "Go home," which meant go home to my home church. I'd parked in the parking lot of a church that I probably knew I wasn't supposed to be at. And I opened the door and I started to get out, and I heard "Go home." And there was people getting out. They didn't seem like they heard anything, but I heard "Go home." And so I got back in my truck and went to my church. So I've also heard God through other people, other ministers, other preachers. They've spoke right to me as if God told them what I needed to hear. I suppose everyone has probably dealt with that before. And I've had people come to me and tell me things that God said tell me. And I take most of those. I don't take all of those. But you at least have to pray about it and ask God, did you is this from you or is this from somebody else? Don't something that somebody tells you, take that with a grain of salt. Is that right? Pray it. You got to pray about it, because God does work that way. But here's my story. And if you're a hunter, if you've ever been in the woods, if you know anything about wildlife, this will affect you also. It's an interesting story, and it's a quite long story. But I used to hunt at Augsburg. Does anyone know where Augsburg is? So I've seen it on the sign one time. It's between London and Dover. I don't know what the highway is even anymore that goes from 333 goes from London to Dover. About halfway between there's Augsburg, and it was from my house was about probably 35-40 minutes to Augsburg. And so I go and I hunt that morning, and it's bow season. It's deer season. By the way, has anybody been to the woods? I went and got some corn last week and put in my feeders and got the deer started. My wife went yesterday. I didn't go. Yesterday morning, y'all don't tell anybody else this, okay? This what happens in the church stays in the church, okay? This is nobody else's business. So yesterday morning, is opening season of bow season. It's bucks only, antlered velvet buck only season. And so yesterday morning I had a choice: either go to prison training or go hunting. So, what do you think I did? Don't spoil it for everybody else, Regina. I went to prison training yesterday. I felt bad, but I still went to prison training. It's I don't know. Is it? Would you call it a passion? Probably so. Probably call it a passion because I love to hunt. Don't ever get me wrong. I love to hunt, and I didn't go hunting this morning despite rumors going around. I actually was just sick, and so I wanted to get some rest because I knew I had to speak tonight. But anyhow, I drove to Augsburg, and after I hunted, I wanted to put my stand out in a particular place, and so it's I got on my four-wheeler and I got my tree climber and I drove. It's about 10 minutes to the back there. And then I got my stand on my, no, I drove my four-wheeler all the way to the place. You have to drive back there about 10 minutes and then you hit a dry creek bed and you drive about another 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes down the creek. And there's where I put my stand. And so I went and I put my stand on the tree that I wanted to hunt in. It's a tree that I had hunted in before. And on the way in, I passed a big old white oak tree. I mean, giant white oak tree. And the roots come out in the creek. And I just happened to notice that big roots. And it's kind of a little sandbar there. And there was about 6 or 7 shotgun shells right there. And I looked up in the big white oak and there was a squirrel nest. I hate people who shoot squirrel nests, but I know that's exactly what happened. People shoot squirrel nests and they think a squirrel's supposed to fall out. Well, most of the time you kill 5, 6, 7 squirrels with 1 or 2 shots and nothing ever falls out of the nest, because you kill the babies and the mama too. That's what happened. So, but anyhow, I just happened to notice that. And so I went on back to the house and typical hunting season. You get back home, you eat, take a nap, you get up and you go back to hunting. Okay, that's what happens when you retire. Okay, it's a rough life, but somebody's got to do it. But so that evening, I headed back, and I drive 35, 40 minutes to Augsburg, and I got at the time, I'm not bragging on me, I'm bragging on God. It's a brand new F-250 Ford diesel. They only come one way with everything. Back when they first started making them, they had the sunroof. They had, they had leather seats. I mean, it's everything. They didn't make you had to order a plain one if you wanted a plain one. But so I had that and the trailer and the new four-wheeler, and I drag all that to Augsburg. And I get off and I drive my four-wheeler back there 10, 15 minutes. And then I'll walk another 10, 11, 12 minutes. And on my way in, when I get to that big root forest, that white oak tree where the shells was, I look over there in them roots because I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and there's this little bitty squirrel. Without its tail, it's about this long, and it don't have a lot of hair on it. When they're born naked. They don't have any hair. They're just little rats, look like. And so I'm like, it climbed down the roots and started towards me, and I kind of jumped out of the way and hit on like that thing got rabies or something on, because if you know anything about hunting, squirrels don't come to you. I mean, they run. You're the enemy. They're taught that from birth. I mean, it's instinctive within them that you just run. That's what you do. You don't intermingle with humans. And so I got another quarter mile to walk, and so I walk back there, and I go to hang my P. Willie wick up. How many of you know what a P. Willie wick is? It's you unscrew the bottle and it's got a big wick. P. Willie wick, got doe urine on it, and I hang it. I climb up this little rock embankment and I hang it on this little tree right there. And after I get it hung up, I hear something, and I look back down the creek. And I see that little squirrel coming around the bend. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And so I stand there about 3 or 4 minutes it takes for that little squirrel to get to where I'm at. And I'm freaking, I don't know about you, but I'm freaking out. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I don't understand what this squirrel is doing. I mean, and by the time it gets there, it's bad. And it climbs up that rock bank, and it's everything that little squirrel can do to climb that rock bank. And it comes over there right in front of me and stops. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I just reach down and I hold my hand out. But at that time, I could reach to the ground and hold my hand out. But I can't do that now. And that little squirrel climbed in my hand and just curled up in a fetal position. And I'm looking at the little squirrel. And I got on camouflage overalls, and so I opened the pocket. I said, "We're going hunting." And so, I climb down the rocks and up the bank and to my tree, and I get on, tie my bow off, and I climb up the tree and pull my bow up, and I'm thinking about what just happened, and I'm thinking, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just going to be real. What in the world is going on in the world when a squirrel comes to a man in the middle of the woods and climbs up in his hand? And I'm like, I done told the little squirrel we're going hunting, so I know he's excited. But what if it dies while we're up here hunting? It's evidently, it's hungry. And so I get mad at myself. I throw my bow to the ground. It's on a string, burns my hands with the rope because I got mad and just flung it to the ground on the rope. It's like, I got to take the squirrel home if it dies while I'm here hunting. But I've killed thousands of squirrels. What's the difference? What's the deal? I mean, it don't make sense to me. None of it makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me about what the squirrel done. It doesn't make sense to me what I'm doing right now. Except for it's not enough meat to eat. But anyhow, it's so I flung my bow to the ground and I climbed down and I got my bow and I walked back to my four-wheeler and then I drove my four-wheeler 10 minutes back to my truck, and I drove my truck 40 minutes, and there's only one place that I got a little bit of signal up there, and I called and I tell them, I've got this little squirrel, and I've got to get some food in it. Can you see if you can find some food? And so she calls the lady, and they say that they'll eat cat food, cat milk. And so she goes to Walmart and gets cat milk, and when I get to London, I got signal again. And I call her, and she says, I'm getting on the interstate. She says, I got it. It's a good news. I got some milk. It was only $24. I'm like, I won't tell you what I said, but I cursed a little bit. I said, how much is a DAMN squirrel worth? That's what I said. And how much is a squirrel worth? And God spoke to me. He didn't speak audibly, but I heard him in my heart. I didn't hear an audible voice, but I heard him directly say, you'll have to ask the squirrel. And so I knew the answer right then. Ask you, how much are you worth? If you ask me how much I'm worth a lot, okay? I mean, if you answer the same thing for yourself, I'm worth a lot. I'm not worth 15 cents, but to me, I'm worth a lot, okay? That's just the way it is. How much is a squirrel worth? How much are you worth? What's the investment? I don't know for you, but what was the investment into you to get you where you are today? What was the investment? Who made the investment? Was the investment they made worth it? For me, it was a big investment. I had a fishing partner who for 5 years invested about 20 to 25 weekends a year. Weekends starting sometime on Wednesday through Sunday, because, you know, you have to drive to different states, and you have to pre-fish a little bit. And normally Friday, or if the tournament started on Friday, the day before the tournament's always off limit, so you had to get there a day, 2 days before the tournament started at least to fish. And this guy invested that much. Not only did he invest, but his wife and kids invested in me also, because they had to let go of their daddy, their husband, for that amount of time. And his name was Paul Honeycutt. There might be some people in this room that knew Paul Honeycutt. Almost everyone in this room knew his nephew, because he attended this church, Brian Honeycutt. Paul invested in me. He wasn't the only one that invested in me, but he was the major one that invested in me. Paul never beat me over the head with Jesus. He never whooped me. He never spanked me. He never did any of that kind of stuff. He just simply loved me. He loved me, and he was there. And that evidently was enough. But it was thousands of dollars that he invested in me, thousands and thousands of dollars. And I don't know. I hadn't even tried to add up the time, but 20 plus weekends a year for 5 years is quite a bit of time, especially sometimes when weekends would be 4, maybe even 5 days. And he had to take off work. I was fortunate enough I was my boss, and so taking off wasn't a problem for me. How much is a squirrel worth? I should have brought some pictures of Squeaky, because I have quite a few pictures. She grew up to be a healthy, happy squirrel, and she had this. The house was hers. It didn't belong to us anymore. It belonged to her, and she slept where she wanted to sleep, which most of the time was with my daughter, and she did what she wanted to do. But she had this strange thing that only thing I ever fed her was nuts, and I didn't crack them for her. I let her learn how to be a squirrel. And the strangest thing is if you gave her a pecan. Now, I don't know about you, but I cook in cast iron. Anybody else cook in cast iron? As far as I'm concerned, there is nothing else to cook in but cast iron. And I always have a cast iron skillet on my stove. It's clean, but it's sitting there, so just in case I get ready to throw anything. But that was her favorite place to eat pecans. Now, it didn't matter about any other nut, but if you gave her a pecan, she headed to the cast iron skillet on top of the stove and sat in the cast iron skillet and cracked her nuts and ate them in the cast iron skillet. It didn't make sense to me, but it made sense to her, and so that's what she done. I got pictures of it. I'll bring the photos one of these days and prove them to y'all. So she was fun, but I knew that one day I was going to take her to the woods. I wasn't going to try to keep her all her life, because she was a squirrel. She came from the woods. You got to understand this. First of all, let's go backwards a little bit. Why did she do that? I was her last hope. That's the only reason a squirrel would come to a person. The only reason a squirrel would come to a person was that she knew that the deer wasn't going to help her, the raccoon wasn't going to help her, the possum wasn't going to help her, and there wasn't another squirrel to help her. I was her last hope. I have to get to that, my enemy, because it's my last hope. That's the way I came to God. I don't know about y'all, but it was my last hope, Matt. Is I tried everything else. I tried everything else that there was under the sun. I tried it, but with a gun to my head, God said, "I can fix you and I can help you if you're willing to change." And that's what happened to the little squirrel. It changed. It changed his mind. I'm going. This is it. That's the only thing that I have. That's my last hope right there. And so I think it actually seen me that morning, and it was waiting for me that evening. And not only did it run towards me when I was standing there, it walked a quarter of a mile, ran a quarter of a mile to get to me. And not only that, it climbed up them rocks. And let me tell you, it wasn't going to take 5 more steps before it just completely killed off. I mean, it was that tired. But when I held my hand down and the little squirrel climbed, I didn't pick the little squirrel up. The little squirrel climbed in my hand and curled up in the fetal position. To this day, it still does something to me because I've spent the majority of my life in the woods, and that just doesn't happen. And so I knew it was God, and I knew it was a story that God wanted me to tell, because really it was a story of me. It was a story of my life. It was a story where I found myself all alone, and I'd tried everything else and nothing else helped me but God. Now, I will say this. After I get a drink. It's just coffee. It's not alcohol. I drink coffee all day long. Anybody else? I'm a coffeeholic. I actually drink about 3 to 4 cups of coffee all day long. So I just a little sip here and a little sip there. But who invested in you? And how much did they invest in you? Or how much are they investing in you right now? Whoever that person is, don't try to repay them because they're not looking for repayment. Try to grow to be what God wants you to be, because that's the reason they invest in you, because they want you to be everything that God has intended for you. You see, before you were ever even born, according to Psalms 139, God wrote a book about your life. Before you were ever even born, the day you were conceived, God had a book written about your life, about what he wanted your life to look like, what he wanted your life to be. Not the life that we've lived, not the life that you've written, not the life that you've decided, but the life that he decided for you. So try to get on the pages of the book that God wrote for you. That's what the people who invest in you are looking for you to be everything that God intended for you to be. Also, how much is a squirrel worth? I hope I hope $6,000 to $8,000 because that's what that one cost between vet bills and food and everything that went into it. She was quite an expensive little squirrel, but we had a farm in Center Valley, and we took her out there and let her out, and she climbed up a tree, and then she came about halfway back down and looked at us, and she climbed up that big tree again, and she jumped to the next tree and the next tree, and she was gone. And that next hunting season, I was out there in my hunting house, and I don't know this to be a fact, but there was a little squirrel come to a tree above my hunting house, and it had two little babies with it, and the little squirrel jumped on the lid of the window of my hunting house, and it turned its head around. I don't know, they contorted herself, but she looked at me, and I swore she smiled, Aaron. I mean, I swore the little squirrel just smiled at me like, thank you. You were a wonderful Savior, and I appreciate everything that you had done. I mean, if it wasn't squeaky, that doesn't make sense either. You know, why a squirrel would 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 come that close to a human, because squirrels just don't come close to you. Now I know if you've been to the square of these little old bitty towns, the squirrels come up to you and eat out of your hands. Just trust me, in the woods it don't happen that way. All right, it does not happen. Period. And so when God tells you to do something, just do it. When God tells you to rescue somebody, just do it. I don't care what the price is. They're worth it. They're worth every dime, every minute. You know, the biggest price is going to be your time. That's the biggest cost that we have with anything is our time. I won't mention patience, but time, definitely. It's worth it. Is it worth it? How much are you worth? You are, ain't you? No, you're worth a lot in people's eyes too, okay? How much are you worth? You are. You're most definitely worth a lot. Don't try to repay people who help you, except for becoming everything that God has envisioned for you. And I'll close with this. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for well-being, not for a calamity. Plans for a future and a hope. God says, when you pray to me, I'll hear you. But listen, nothing's happened yet. Here's the key to this car right here. But when you search for me with all your heart, soul, mind, money, and matter, which is everything that you have. When you search for me with everything that you have, which is what the little squirrel did, is search for me. It traveled the distance to find me. When you search for me with everything that you have, I'll be found by you. And I'll restore you. I'll restore your mind. I'll restore what you traded for dope. I'll restore what you bought things that you shouldn't have bought with. I'll restore to you what you didn't even know that belonged to you. I'll restore you, says the Lord of hosts. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still in need of restoration. I still need restored. I still need things from God. I don't know if you need any restoration or not, but here's where we get restored at. If we could just take a few minutes to ask God to restore us for the things that we need. Maybe somebody that you have in mind right now that needs restored. Maybe somebody you have in mind right now that needs your attention. The altars are open if anyone cares to pray. Now is the time.